Welcome to the Daily MBA, where business wisdom is served fresh and fast, straight from one of the top MBA programs in the world. I'll give you summaries of my lectures and readings, as well as the most important insights gained from an MBA, so you can apply all of this knowledge in every business. Let's get started.
Hi! In today's episode, I'm going to keep talking about game theory, but now we're moving forward from the basic concepts and from symmetric or asymmetric games, because we're going to talk about actively shaping the game that you play. And this is going to be a strategy that can help you improve all of your strategies, and it's called commitment. Because at a first glance, it might seem counterintuitive, but a player might actually be able to increase their payoff by deliberately discarding some of the available strategies. And this is commonly called as the power of commitment. This concept, it's a central paradox in game theory, because sometimes having fewer options makes you stronger. And think of historical examples, like Julius Caesar sending his horse away before battle with the Helvetii, or even Cortes when he was burning all of his ships. All of these actions removed their ability to retreat. And so by eliminating this entire option, they changed the strategic calculus for their opponents. So let's start looking at commitment and how important it might be for any strategic decision. For a commitment to be effective, though, two critical conditions should be satisfied. The first is that the commitment should be absorbed as such, is what it says. But this means that for a commitment to work, it must be visible to others that it intends to influence. So a secret commitment holds no strategic value because other players cannot react to it. It has to be visible. And the second thing, it must be believed as such, which means it should be credible. Other players must genuinely believe that you don't have other options. And this is where the core challenge is going to lie. Why are many threats and promises not credible? Because the ex ante, which is before the opponent's move, you would like to commit to taking a promised or threatened action. So you can be saying, I will do this, I will do that. But then in the ex post, which means after the opponent moves, is going to mean that some people lack the right incentives to do whatever it is that they promised. So in other words, it's often more payoff maximizing to back down from whatever threat or revenge you were saying once the moment of truth arrives. A threat or promise is not going to be credible if it's not in the player's best interest to deliver it when they have to choose. And a classic example of lack of commitment can be seen, for example, in airline industries, where some companies are always announcing a fare increase or some changes, but then when the time comes, they actually drop the price or they do something different. Because this demonstrates how difficult it can be to credibly commit. You might be setting up some strategies, but then when time comes, you might not be able to execute them, or you may not want to execute them. And so it becomes against your immediate self-interest whenever these circumstances change. So how do you create a credible commitment? This is going to be our key thing here. Because to make a promise or a threat credible, you basically need to tie your hands. And this will involve what is called in game theory as burning bridges. So taking irreversible actions that change your future incentives, which is something that Julius Caesar did, for example. He maybe was scared about the battle and he would like to retreat or go back. But if he doesn't have his horse anymore with him, he can't go back. He has to fight. So he was on a way burning a bridge. And another real life example might be Intel, for example, because in 1978, Intel developed the 1886 microprocessor but chose to grant the second source licensing to competitors like IBM and AMD. This meant that by 1987, Intel only held 30% of market share for this microprocessor, operating it in a competitive market even though they were a monopolist. So why would they give away all of this market power? It was more of a hold-up game because customers, who were the computer manufacturers, needed to decide whether they would adopt this microchip or not. But the customers didn't want to be held up by a single supplier that could later dictate high prices, so Intel understood that this would change the game. And so by giving this microprocessor to other companies and licensing it, it took a costly action that reduced its direct profits on those initial years, but then it tilted the strategic balance of the entire game because pricing low became more attractive than pricing high for Intel. And knowing this, the computer manufacturers observed that the license to others commitment and adopted this microprocessor, and it secured the widespread adoption of the Intel standard, allowing a long-term success in the future chip design.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
Hey, business owners, we know you know the importance of maximizing every dollar. With the Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business American Express card, you can make your expenses work just as hard as you. From afternoon coffee runs to stocking office supplies and even team dinners, you can earn miles on all your business expenses. Plus, you can earn 125,000 bonus miles for a limited time through October 29th. The Delta SkyMiles Reserve Business Card. If you travel, you know. Minimum spending requirements and terms apply. Offer ends October 29th, 2025.
So this is more of a techie example, but as you can see, this is something that happens by many companies because committing will give you more power. To systematically understand commitment, we can classify the strategies based on two dimensions: how your actions can affect your rival, and whether commitment makes your firm tougher or softer. So if we look at tougher or softer, soft is going to generally mean that you're being less aggressive. Even if you're still looking for your own best interest, you are less aggressive when doing so. Tough means the opposite, you are more aggressive. So you would rather prefer that your rivals are soft when you are the tough guy. But if we look at the strategic part, we may have substitutes or complements. So strategic substitutes are going to mean that if I use my strategy more intensely, you will react by cutting back on your strategy. And one classic example of this is going to be a competition exercise. When one firm increases the output, a rival will reduce theirs. So this is going to be like a substitute, and their reaction curves are going to be negatively sloped because if I do one thing, they will do the opposite. Strategic complements are going to be that if I do my strategy more intensely, you will react by also doing your strategy more intensely too. And so this will also see it in another type of competition, but it means that reaction curves are going to be upward sloping because if I do something, you will follow and do that same thing strongly. So if we combine soft and hard with complements and substitutes, we're going to get a powerful 2x2, which has many strategies that have very weird names. My professor didn't make up these names. I didn't make them up, but they sound like they're fake, okay? So top dog is going to be when strategies are substitutes and tough. And so the goal to commit to being tough so your rival will be soft. Fat cats are going to be when the strategies are complements, but the commitment makes your firm soft. And so the aim is going to be make a commitment to be soft so your rivals will also become soft. Puppy dog is going to be when strategies are going to be complements and you do not commit to be tough. If you committed to be tough, your rival would respond by being tougher, which is something that you want to avoid. So by avoiding actions that would give you more incentive to be tough, as your rival would respond in kind, you are not going to be tough. And the last one is going to be lean and hungry. And this one applies when strategies are substitutes and you do not commit to be soft. Because a commitment to be soft would lead your rival to become tough, which is also undesirable. A key distinction between not committing to be tough, which is the puppy dog, or committing to be soft, which is the fat cat, often will lie on the reversibility over here. So I want you to stay online with my wording. It's not the same that I say not commit to be tough, that if I say commit to be soft, okay? Because if a decision is reversible, it's generally considered as not committing. Because as I was explaining in the beginning, you could always change your mind, you could reverse things, so this is going to be the key. But beyond specific commitment tactics, the broader principle is going to be that successful business strategy is going to be about actively shaping the game that you're playing and not just playing the game that you find. And one of the only ways that you can change the game that you're playing is through commitment. Because we've seen how credible and most of the time irreversible actions can fundamentally alter the incentive of other players and the payoffs, leading to even more favorable outcomes than before. And if you think of real-life business examples like ad spend or the strategic use of loyalty programs, these are all going to be ways of burning bridges. Incredibly committing is going to be a hallmark of effective strategic. Next time, we're going to explore another way of changing the game that you're playing, which is through repetition and cooperation, examining how both of these ones can foster the leverage and sometimes, in bad cases, even collusion. If you like this episode, please give me a review because this helps me tremendously and it helps me reach more people globally with all of my MBA knowledge. Also, tell me in the comments if you liked it and tell me what you learned. Or share it with a friend that also likes learning and would also like to apply some MBA knowledge into their work or into their job search because this might be incredibly useful for them. And stay tuned because next episode will also be extremely interesting and you could apply it into your day-to-day life. See you next week.